Narrator. Today, we journey through the life of David, the shepherd, the warrior, the king, and the man after God's own heart. Scene 1, The Shepherd Boy. Open Book 1 Samuel 16, 1, 10-11. Visual. A young David watching sheep in the fields of Bethlehem. Narrator. David was the youngest son of Jesse. While tending his father's sheep, he learned courage and faith in God. Scene 2, David is anointed. Open Book 1 Samuel 16 12-13. Visual. Samuel pouring oil on David's head. Narrator. God sent Samuel to anoint David. Though he was the youngest, God chose him to be king. Scene 3, Musician for King Saul. Open Book 1 Samuel 16 14-23. Visual. David playing the harp before King Saul. Narrator. When Saul was troubled, David played the harp, and peace filled the room. Scene 4, David and Goliath. Open Book 1 Samuel 17, 1-51. Visual. David facing Goliath, the stone flying. Narrator. Armed with faith and a sling, David defeated the giant Goliath. Israel rejoiced. Scene 5, Saul's jealousy. Open Book 1 Samuel 18, 5-11, 19, 1-2. Visual. Saul watching David with jealousy. Narrator. David's victories made Saul jealous. Again and again, Saul tried to kill him. Scene 6, David and Jonathan's friendship. Open Book 1 Samuel 18, 1-4, 20-12-17. Visual. David and Jonathan making a covenant. Narrator. Jonathan loved David as his own soul and protected him from Saul's fury. Scene 7, David in hiding. Open Book 1 Samuel 21-26. Visual. David hiding in caves with his men. Narrator. David fled for his life, but even in danger, he refused to harm Saul, God's anointed. Scene 8, The Death of Saul. Open Book 1 Samuel 31, 1-6, 2 Samuel 1 17-27. Visual. Saul's final battle, David mourning. Narrator. When Saul and Jonathan died in battle, David wept bitterly. Scene 9, David becomes king. Open Book 2 Samuel 5, 1-5. Visual. The tribes of Israel crowning David. Narrator. David became king over all Israel and ruled for 40 years. Scene 10, Capturing Jerusalem. Open Book 2 Samuel 5, 6-10. Visual. Soldiers taking Jerusalem. Narrator. David captured Jerusalem and made it the city of David, the nation's capital. Scene 11, The Ark in Jerusalem. Open Book 2 Samuel 6 12-15. Visual. David dancing as the ark enters the city. Narrator. He brought the Ark of God to Jerusalem with great celebration. Scene 12, David's victories. Open Book 2 Samuel 8, 1-15. Visual. Map of nations Israel conquered. Narrator. God gave David victory over many nations and established his kingdom. Scene 13, David and Mephibosheth. Open Book 2 Samuel 9, 1-13. Visual. David welcoming Mephibosheth. Narrator. David showed kindness to Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth, giving him a place at his table. Scene 14, David and Bathsheba. Open Book 2 Samuel 11, 1-27, 12, 1-13. Visual. David looking down from the palace, Nathan confronting him. Narrator. David sinned with Bathsheba and arranged Uriah's death. Nathan rebuked him. David repented, but the consequences were severe. Scene 15, Family troubles. Open Book 2 Samuel 13-18. Visual. Absalom leading rebellion. Narrator. David's household suffered many tragedies, Amnon's sin, Absalom's rebellion, and heartbreaking loss. Scene 16, David prepares Solomon. Open Book 1 Kings 1:28-40, 1 Chronicles 29, 1-9. Visual. David blessing Solomon. Narrator. In his old age, David prepared Solomon to rule and gathered materials for the temple. Scene 17, The Death of David. Open Book 1 Kings 2:10-12. Visual. David resting on his bed, transition to Solomon on the throne. Narrator. David died after ruling 40 years. His legacy continues as a man after God's own heart. If you want, I can